This is the Weekly Roundup on the EAC Cambodia channel, your look back at the week that was in the Kingdom of Wonder. My name's Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and we begin on Monday, the 9th of August. AstraZeneca vaccines donated by Japan and the United Kingdom are going into arms quickly as Cambodia rolls out its booster shot program. Prime Minister Hun Sen deployed 2 helicopters on Saturday to deliver doses to 7 provinces bordering Thailand. The booster shots started being given on Sunday. On Monday, the Health Ministry reopened vaccinations in Phnom Penh for those who missed their shots earlier this year. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the details.
Public and private medical practitioners and civil servants. These are the people prioritized by the royal government for a booster shot designed to increase protection against the Delta variant. 7 provinces selected as high-priority areas are Battambang, Banteay-Menchay, Pailin, Kokung, Udar-Menchay, Pursat, and Preah Vihear. These are all exposed to migrant workers returning from Thailand. The AstraZeneca vaccines are being used as booster shots for those frontline workers who have been fully vaccinated with either Sinopharm and Sinovac. Booster shots will be rolled out for the rest of the adult population once frontline personnel have received theirs. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has brought the COVID-19 vaccination campaign back to Phnom Penh. This is to give Cambodians and foreigners in the capital a second chance to get vaccinated. The vaccinations run until September 8. They are being administered at 2 locations, Preah Ang Dung Hospital and the National Center for Maternal and Child Health. EAC News spoke to 2 foreigners who got their first shots on Monday. 56-year-old Briton Gary Smith says he's finally getting vaccinated after a long wait.
I've come to get the vaccine to safeguard myself and everyone around me. And I think it's a very good thing. Does not hurt. You have the injection, can't feel it. It's not a problem, and it's going to save a lot of lives,
43-year-old Hassan Rihut told us he was not yet in Cambodia when the first vaccinations in the capital were conducted.
Because last time I couldn't arrive in time here because I was not here. I was out of the country. So now I hear the vaccine started again in Phnom Penh. So I came here for the vaccine because it's necessary for me, it's necessary for my health.
The Ministry of Health has advised locals to bring their ID cards and foreigners to bring their passports. Booster shots have also started in the capital, but for military personnel first. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
An elderly woman from Battambang says she can now walk up straight after getting her COVID-19 vaccine. 72-year-old Nin Ern says she'd been struggling with a stooped back for the past 3 years, but one day after getting vaccinated, she could suddenly walk properly again. And she wouldn't be the world's first vaccine miracle either. An elderly woman in India was reported to have regained her eyesight earlier this month, also the day after vaccination. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the story.
Just a day after getting vaccinated, Battambang's 72-year-old Nguyen Eun excitedly showed her neighbors and family members how the COVID-19 vaccine has changed her life. She told EAC News that she'd suffered with a crooked back since 2018, couldn't walk straight, and only slept on one side. But just a day after getting her vaccine shot, she woke up noticing that she could move much more easily and can sleep on both sides. At first, she was worried after noticing that the veins in her wrist were swollen and blue, but then felt something amazing happening.
The other day, I decided to get the COVID-19 vaccine. I was little worried about the side effects, but when I woke up, I was totally amazed with the effect. I can walk straight now. Everyone was so surprised seeing how I move and walk. They don't believe me. I just tell them, look at me and see. How could I ever walk like this without my back hurting? I can stand very well now.
The director of Battambang's Provincial Social Affairs, Kim Teng, delivered gifts to Nguyen Eun. Her family and neighbors say they're amazed at the difference in her. She has expressed her thanks for being vaccinated, but says it's been about a lot more than protecting herself from COVID-19. It has literally changed her life. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Let's take a look now at news making headlines around the world this Monday, the 9th of August. Thousands of people have fled their homes on the Greek island of Evia as wildfires rage uncontrolled for a 6th day. Ferries remain on standby for more evacuations. The fires that had threatened Athens have died back, but the blaze on Evia, which lies east of the capital, has quickly consumed thousands of hectares of pristine forest. Greece has deployed its army to help battle the fires. Several countries, including France, Egypt, Switzerland, and Spain, have also sent firefighting aircraft. More than 570 firefighters are involved. With COVID fatigue setting in and vaccine passports quickly becoming the norm, we can expect to see more protests like these. About 1,000 people held a protest in central Rome at the weekend against the so-called Green Pass. The certificate shows if someone has received at least one dose of vaccine, has tested negative, or has recently recovered from COVID-19. Italy is following in the footsteps of France, which was the first European country to say it was making proof of immunity mandatory to access a range of public services and venues. The Green Pass, which came into effect last Friday, is required to dine in at restaurants, as well as go to gyms, swimming pools, sports stadiums, museums, spas, casinos, and cinemas. The Italian government plans to widen use of the Green Pass to include schools, universities, and long-distance transport from the 1st of September. And what is arguably the world's most beautiful building is under threat from pollution flowing downstream from India's capital, New Delhi. Toxic foam caused by industrial chemicals, algae, and waste products in the Yamuna River are causing discoloration on the Taj Mahal. Experts warn that the stains could permanently damage the building. The mayor of Agra, where the Taj Mahal sits, says heavy rains during the monsoon season have meant that more polluted water than ever is flowing in from New Delhi. It's hoped that once the water levels drop, so too will the damaging pollution. 2 days before the end of the border closure, provinces bordering Thailand are preparing for a massive influx of returning migrant workers. Banteay Meanchey has added more quarantine facilities for workers stranded on the Thai side of the border. At the same time, Dabongkamum and Prey Veng's quarantine centres have been inspected to ensure there's enough equipment and capacity. EAC News reporter Rhea Soko has the latest.
Banteay Meanchey Governor Ratre has announced that the province has added 2 more locations as quarantine centers for returning migrant workers. This is in preparation for when border closures are due to end at midnight on Thursday. The governor says the 2 new quarantine facilities can accommodate around 3,000 people each. Banteay Meanchey currently has 20 quarantine facilities and 15 treatment centers for COVID-19 patients. Meanwhile, the Minister of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation, Vong South, has carried out an inspection of quarantine centers in Prey Veng and Dabongkamum. The 2 provinces continue to receive a large number of migrant workers. Prime Minister Hun Sen announced last week that returning migrant workers will need to quarantine for at least 7 days at the border before being allowed to quarantine in their home provinces. Any migrant workers testing positive for COVID-19 will need to remain at the border, except those with only mild cases who will be allowed to receive home treatment. The transportation of all migrant workers, whether for quarantine in their home provinces or treatment at their own places of residence, will be handled by the military. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has appealed for patience when it comes to the rollout of booster shots. He stressed on Monday that those already fully vaccinated with AstraZeneca are not being prioritized for a 3rd shot of the same vaccine. He says the only people being given a 3rd booster shot now are frontline workers who have been fully inoculated with either Sinovac or Sinopharm. The Prime Minister says frontline workers who are stationed along the border with Thailand are his top priority. He says these personnel include medical doctors, the military, police, and healthcare workers who run the risk of exposure to the Delta variant. He also added that veterans and athletes who will compete in the SEA Games are part of the priority group. The Prime Minister says that for now, Cambodia simply doesn't have enough supply of AstraZeneca for a mass rollout of booster shots, but there's certainly time to acquire them. The Ministry of Health said on Monday that booster shots of AstraZeneca should only be administered at least 6 months after the first dose of either Sinovac or Sinopharm, meaning that if you received your first dose back in May, it'll be November before you qualify. The rollout of booster shots for frontline personnel is already underway, though in 7 provinces. It'll begin in Phnom Penh on Thursday. On to news making international headlines now, and reaction is pouring in to the latest report by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The IPCC says climate change is upon us and that the next decade will be critical if we are to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. More than that, and the world faces catastrophic consequences with more frequent fires, floods, droughts, and extinctions. For residents of Venice, there's been more signs of climate change this week. Extremely rare summer flooding. The famous St. Mark's Square was flooded twice over the weekend. This so-called acqua alta is usually seen in autumn and winter, but not at the height of summer. On Sunday evening, water levels rose to above a meter, although tourists and locals made the most of it, alarming as it is. Venice's floods are caused by a combination of factors which are only exacerbated by climate change, from rising sea levels and unusually high tides to land subsidence that has pushed down the city's ground level. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has apologized for failures in tackling this month's devastating wildfires. He's approved a supplemental budget of over $500 million to fund the relief effort and pay compensation to those who have lost homes and other property. Firefighters on the ground and in the air continue to battle wildfires on the island of Evia. Strong winds are fueling flare-ups, while water-bombing aircraft are struggling due to the sheer volume of smoke. In the past week, more than 580 fires have started, coming just as Greeks suffer the country's worst heat wave in over 30 years. And Britain's Prince Andrew has been sued by a woman who claims she was forced to have sex with him on 3 separate occasions, all arranged by the late financier, convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. In the civil complaint filed in the U.S. District Court in Manhattan, Virginia Giuffre accuses the prince of abusing her about 2 decades ago when she was just 17. The prince's office has made no comment, but he did tell the BBC back in 2019 that he had no recollection of meeting her. She has said that Epstein kept her as a sex slave for years. Her complaint accuses Prince Andrew of battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It seeks unspecified damages. Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in a Manhattan jail cell in August 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Prince Andrew, who is also the Duke of York, has since stepped back as a senior working member of Britain's royal family.
3 million doses of Sinovac will arrive in Cambodia from China on Thursday morning. Secretary of State in the Ministry of Health, Yuk Sambat, says the Cambodian government has purchased the vaccines from China and says it appreciates China's unwavering commitment in helping the kingdom's fight against COVID-19. Apart from the emergency assistance, China has already provided a total of 18.7 million doses of vaccines to Cambodia, of which 3.2 million were donations and 15.5 million were ordered and paid for. The Sinovac vaccines are being administered not only to the adult population, but also to children between the ages of 12 and 17. As of Tuesday, Cambodia has already vaccinated over 359,000 children. When it comes to adults, 8.38 million have received their first shot. 6.43 million are fully vaccinated.
It's the news big business, online teachers and gamers have been waiting for. A better mobile service and a faster internet connection in Cambodia. The Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications has announced the start of a major project to improve mobile towers nationwide. They should all be completed in 2027. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the details.
The Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications says it is the increase in high-rise buildings and mobile service providers focusing only on urban or densely populated areas that are the main reasons the network service in the country is so poor. Minister Chi Vendet says that as a result, some areas of the country, even in the capital, have no internet access at all, but that's all set to change. Minister Vendet says a working group has been formed to monitor all mobile towers, measuring the strength of their signals and fine-tuning them in order to ensure higher quality signals to all the country's communes by 2027. Food delivery driver Noel Kinin was happy to hear about the ministry's plan.
I work as a delivery man, so I need to have faster internet service. If the internet connection is poor, I can't easily contact my customers. It's the same problem for them. If the government will develop our mobile towers, I will be very happy for that. And I think it's a good idea because people in the countryside will also get a chance to use the internet as well.
Un Chet, who works online, says this will be a great help for his job.
I'm happy if this will happen because I work online, so the internet is very necessary for me. Sometimes, due to a slow connection, I respond to my customers very late.
The Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications says Cambodia has 17.48 million mobile internet subscribers using the services of 5 mobile network companies.
6 years from now, the royal government of Cambodia visualizes a much improved telecommunications service. No more dropped calls or slow internet connection. This could also be the start of slowly attracting more investors, as relatively poor network service is one of the issues keeping them away. Rhea Soko, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
Now for a look at news making headlines around the world this Wednesday, the 11th of August. At least 42 people have been killed in a forest fire that hit a mountainous region east of the capital Algiers on Tuesday. 25 of those people were members of the military who were trapped by the fire while trying to fight it. Dozens of separate fires have raged across northern Algeria since Monday night. The Interior Ministry says they were deliberately started. Residents have been using tree branches to try to smother burning patches of forest. Others have been using what water they can find to douse the flames. Several houses have been burnt, with families escaping to hotels, youth hostels, and university residences. The Prime Minister says he's working the phones to bring in firefighting crews from other countries. A decades-long drought in Chile has gone from bad to worse. Usually a wet month with winter showers and snow, it was a record dry July with just 78 millimeters of rain falling compared to the average of over 250. Dam levels are dropping and rivers have completely dried up. Officials say it is now the worst drought in the country's history. The towering and usually snow-capped Andes above the capital Santiago are mostly bare. The government says it's clear evidence of global warming. It says the steady decline in water reserves is now a national priority. Severe water restrictions are now in effect across the country, with hundreds of outlying villages already relying on water deliveries by truck. And a university project designed for entertainment has become a lifesaver in the capital of East Java. The homemade robot is bringing food and a smile to self-isolating residents who have contracted COVID-19 in Surabaya. Made from a range of household items like pots and pans, a rice cooker, and even an old television, it's been renamed the Delta robot after the highly contagious variant of coronavirus that has ripped through Indonesia. The robot is remote-controlled and has a battery life of about 12 hours. It has also been modified to spray disinfectant to stop the spread of the virus. After making its deliveries, it wishes residents Assalamu alaikum or peace be with you. EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of eArts Cambodia's platforms and channels: YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eartscambodia.com. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear. Booster shots for frontline workers have come to Phnom Penh following the rollout in 7 border provinces. The royal government is prioritizing doctors, nurses, the military, and police. One of the venues being used in the capital is the National Pediatric Hospital. EAC News reporter Reo Soko paid them a visit.
At least 2 days of the booster vaccinations at the National Pediatric Hospital are exclusively for their own staff. The hospital caters to children who need medical attention. There is also a COVID-19 ward. Pediatrician Dr. Andreas Hansman told EAC News that they have treated 3 children for COVID and that they had only mild cases. They were placed in a ward together with their parents. He says that since the February community outbreak, the hospital has been relatively quiet. He believes people who need medical help are choosing to avoid hospitals, fearing the virus. But with the booster shots, Dr. Hansman says it's important that all hospital staff should be vaccinated.
It's very important for us because, as you know, Delta variant has arrived in Cambodia since about a couple of weeks, coming over from Thailand, and we know that the Delta variant is much more transmissible compared to the other variants previously. So already we've had small outbreaks in hospitals in Cambodia and in Phnom Penh of healthcare workers who got infected from patients or from other staff. Despite all precautions, it's just very transmissible. And once healthcare staff get infected, hospitals or wards quickly have to close down and patient care is no longer possible, right?
Another pediatrician, Dr. Meng Chai, has encouraged other frontline workers to get their booster shots.
First of all, we already know that COVID-19 has another variant. We give booster shots to our hospital staff and frontline doctors to reduce the spread and create antigens, especially to protect us from the Delta variant. So according to the Prime Minister's speech, he wants all of the doctors here and frontline doctors to get their booster shot.
Dr. Chai says any children who develop serious COVID-19 will not be treated at his hospital, but would be transferred to a specialized treatment facility.
And pediatricians here at the National Pediatric Hospital are encouraging other healthcare workers to get their booster shots. They say it is very important because if 1 or 2 staff at a hospital will test positive for COVID-19, and then all of them will have to be quarantined. And then there'll be no one left to take care of the children who desperately need their help. Rhea Soko, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
It was a busy Wednesday night for announcements regarding extensions to the 14-day anti-Delta campaign that was due to end at midnight on Thursday. First, Phnom Penh announced different extensions for different measures, and then the royal government made an announcement regarding the measures in place nationwide. So, to clarify, if you're living in Phnom Penh, The curfew has been extended for a further 7 days. The time has been adjusted, though, no longer from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., but from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. The curfew runs through Thursday, the 19th of August. Phnom Penh's ban on alcohol sales and suspension of high-risk businesses, though, has been extended for a further 14 days, running through Thursday, the 26th of August. Nationally, the 14-day campaign has been extended for another week. This means the borders with Thailand will reopen only next Friday, the 20th of August. The lockdown in the 8 border provinces, the ban on alcohol sales, and on dining in at restaurants in every province but Phnom Penh will also end next Friday. In making Wednesday night's announcements, the Prime Minister and the Phnom Penh Capital Administration said the initial 14-day campaign had worked, but that more effort was needed to prevent a full-blown community outbreak of the Delta variant. Life is steadily getting easier for people with disabilities in Cambodia. On Thursday, 22 access ramps were distributed in 5 provinces. They've been installed 22 community halls. At the same time, a series of physical accessibility awareness videos have been launched. Both projects are supported by the Australian Embassy through the Australia-Cambodia Cooperation for Sustainable and Equitable Services, or ACCESS program. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the story.
ACCESS is a 5-year Australian government initiative in Cambodia running through until 2023. ACCESS says it reflects Australia's strong commitment to supporting human rights, gender equality, and disability-inclusive development in the region. On Thursday, 22 access ramps were installed at community halls in Kampong Spu, Kampong Cham, Siem Reap, Battambang, and Croce. Secretary of State in the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation, M. Chan Makara, who is also Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, says the ramps might be small, but they send a big signal to the rest of the country.
Disability work is vast, interconnected, and complex. However, the Royal Government of Cambodia, with Prime Minister Hun Sen, who is the honorary chairman of the Disability Action Council, together with the Minister of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation, the chairman of the Disability Action Council, and other leaders at all levels, technical officers have tried and overcome difficulties in collaboration with development partners to improve the disability sector and improve the quality of life of people with disabilities. Under the bilateral cooperation between the Government of Cambodia and Australia, Cambodia is receiving support on disability and gender issues under a competitive investment mechanism managed and operated by ACCESS.
He thanked the Australian government for their support through the ACCESS program, saying it has strengthened the cooperation between government agencies, the United Nations, NGOs, civil society, and other organizations, making the voices of people with disabilities louder than ever. Australian Deputy Ambassador Andreas Zerberg has highlighted that promoting and protecting the rights of persons with disabilities in Cambodia is his focus.
An enabling environment that provides adequate physical accessibility standards plays a central role in ensuring people with disabilities can participate fully in society and enjoy their optimum living standards. For example, accessible pathways, transport and parking facilities, and public buildings such as schools, workplaces, markets, commune councils, and health clinics will better support women, men, and children with disabilities to participate in daily activities that most people take for granted. For example, for a child, if we have a school that's accessible for people with disabilities, that can mean the difference between having an education or being left out.
The series of videos launched on Thursday have been designed to contribute to the awareness of physical accessibility across the health, education, and employment sectors and support the implementation of standards for physical access for all. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Let's take a look now at news making headlines around the world this Thursday, the 12th of August. The death toll in the forest fires in northern Algeria has risen to at least 69. Villagers have been using hoses and tree branches to battle the fires, which have torched dozens of homes. The government has deployed the army to help fight the fires. 28 of the dead are soldiers. Hundreds of residents have been evacuated. Those who initially decided to stay and fight have started fleeing to hotels and university residences. Algeria's president has declared 3 days of national mourning. Across the border in Tunisia, no major fires, but record temperatures. The mercury hit a record 49 degrees in the capital Tunis on Tuesday. Slightly lower temperatures, in the low 40s, are forecast for the remainder of the week. In some parts of the country, the heat wave is causing power outages, with people staying home and pumping up the air conditioning. Tunisia's Meteorological Institute says the previous highest recorded temperature in Tunis was 46.8 degrees back in 1982. The heat wave has swept across the Mediterranean in recent weeks, sparking the fires in Algeria, but also in Greece and Turkey. And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is testifying at a corruption inquiry involving his predecessor Jacob Zuma, under whom he served as deputy president. On Wednesday, he told the judge that he chose to remain but resist rather than resign when the allegations of corruption first surfaced. He said resigning would have earned him praise, but said it would have significantly impaired his ability to end corruption, a goal he has turned into a cornerstone of his presidency.
Ordinary people abhor corruption, and they've not always seen the ANC as taking action against those in its own ranks who have been involved in corrupt acts. But now the game has changed. The line has been drawn in the sand, and the ANC is saying that we are renewing ourselves.
The inquiry, headed by Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, is looking into allegations including that Jacob Zuma allowed 3 brother businessmen to influence policy and win lucrative government contracts. Zuma claims the inquiry is politically motivated and has refused to fully cooperate with it. It's not every day you see a bear in your local supermarket, but we have to be thankful that Los Angeles resident David Barlin had the presence of mind to whip out his phone to capture this. The bear was filmed sauntering through the aisles at Ralph's supermarket in the LA suburb of Porter Ranch. He was probably looking for those bare necessities before staff chased him towards the entrance, where he was shot with a tranquilizer dart. The Los Angeles Police Department says it received numerous reports of bear sightings that same day, although it was only this one who thought he might do some shopping. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says the little bear was safely relocated back to his natural habitat. The World Health Organization in Cambodia says vaccines alone cannot end the community outbreak and that they are not a silver bullet against the pandemic. Dr. Lee Ailan says even those who are fully vaccinated must adhere to government's preventative measures to curb the further spread of the virus in the kingdom. EAC news reporter Reo Soko has the day's top story.
The U.S. Center for Disease Control calls preventative measures non-pharmaceutical interventions. The WHO says these are also known as community mitigation strategies, and they are among the best ways of controlling the pandemic. As we know, these include staying at home when not feeling well, covering your mouth and nose when sneezing and coughing, maintaining a safe social distance, washing your hands often, and wearing a face mask. The WHO says vaccine optimism can be dangerous. It says those who are fully vaccinated should dismiss the idea that they can't be infected or transmit the virus. WHO Country Representative Dr. Lee Ailan says she deeply appreciates the vaccination efforts of the royal government and Cambodians' courage for staying strong in their fight against COVID-19. She remains positive that with individual and collective actions, people will win the fight against the pandemic, although the WHO says it is far from over. While there are signals of reduced transmission and death in some provinces, Dr. Ailan says the risk of a surge in COVID-19 due to the Delta variant is very high, especially if preventative measures are relaxed too soon and too quick. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Banteay Menchai has reopened its border with Thailand, but only to facilitate the return of 463 migrant workers. They'd faced the prospect of a further week camping along the border, with all the kingdom's other border crossings with Thailand closed until next Friday. The Buang Trakun border crossing was reopened on Friday morning in cooperation with Thai authorities. A total of 463 Cambodian migrant workers were able to cross back into the kingdom. They've been taken to the local quarantine center after undergoing rapid tests for COVID-19. There, they'll spend the next 21 days, not 14, after the Ministry of Health imposed a mandatory 21-day quarantine for all migrant workers returning from Thailand. The announcement was made on Friday morning following the discovery of an 8-year-old boy in Sihanoukville who tested positive for the Delta variant a full 20 days after crossing the border. Minister of Health, Dr. Mambun Heng, says the 21-day quarantine will be for returning migrant workers, as well as anyone who had direct or indirect contact with them. COVID-19 patients with the Delta variant will now also be tested 4 times. There'll be 3 rapid tests at regular intervals, followed by a full blood test on the final day of their quarantine. The last surviving Khmer Rouge leader, Khieu Samphan, will launch his appeal on Monday against his life sentence. The appeal will be heard by the Supreme Court Chamber of the Extraordinary Chambers. Samphan is a former president of the Khmer Rouge who was found guilty of genocide and various crimes against humanity in 2014 and in 2018. He has expressed regret for his role in the Khmer Rouge, but has maintained that he was only a figurehead and claims he knew nothing about the atrocities that were being committed. EAC News reporter Rhea Soko has the story.
More than 2 million people were killed during the 1975-1979 rule of Pol Pot's ultra-communist Khmer Rouge. People died from torture, execution, disease, and starvation. Khieu Samphan was at the very top of the regime and was referred to as Pol Pot's right-hand man. In 1998, he returned to Cambodia along with Nuon Chea, known as Brother Number 2, under a no-arrest guarantee. But a decade later, in 2007, the pair were arrested and charged under the United Nations-backed War Crimes Tribunal. In August 2014, alongside Nuon Chea, Samphan was sentenced to life in prison for crimes against humanity, murder, persecution on political grounds, and other inhumane acts over the forced evacuation of the capital in 1975. In November 2018, both men were found guilty of genocide against the Cham Muslim minority and Vietnamese people in a second trial, and again sentenced to life in prison. Nuon Chea died in 2019, leaving Khieu Samphan the sole surviving Khmer Rouge leader to challenge the conviction, a challenge that will begin on Monday. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Now for a look at news around the world making headlines this Friday, the 13th of August. 6 people, including a child, have been killed in a rare mass shooting in the UK. Police were called to the scene in the coastal city of Plymouth on Thursday night. The British Home Secretary described the incident as shocking. 5 people, including the suspect, died from gunshot wounds at the scene. The 6th person died a short time later in hospital. Police described the shooting as a serious firearms incident and said the incident was not related to terrorism. The United Kingdom has one of the lowest gun homicide rates in the world. This was its first mass shooting in 11 years. The Taliban is closing in on the Afghan capital of Kabul. It has launched a lightning-fast offensive in recent weeks following the withdrawal of US troops. It has now captured the city of Ghazni, the 9th provincial capital it has seized this week. It reportedly has control of about 2/3 of the country. Security analysts say Kabul could be surrounded within the month and fall within 90 days. All gateways into the capital are choked with civilians fleeing violence elsewhere. The Taliban has already captured districts bordering Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Iran, Pakistan, and China, heightening regional security concerns. The Taliban is fighting the US-backed government and wants to impose a strict interpretation of Islamic law.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And they got the countdown right, and the first 2 booster stages went according to plan. But as the old saying goes, what goes up must come down. This Indian rocket, which was carrying a powerful Earth observation satellite, failed to fire fully on Thursday and plunged back to Earth. The Indian Space Research Organization described it as a major setback for the country's space program. It is not known when the launch will be attempted again. EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of eArts Cambodia's platforms and channels: YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eartscambodia.com. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear. What must be the oddest Olympic Games in history finally came to a close on Sunday night. The Tokyo 2020 Games were held a year late in a city under a state of emergency and with no spectators, all because of the pandemic. But they closed in spectacular style. A volley of multicolored fireworks lit up the night sky over Tokyo on Sunday. Broadcasting rights being what they are, this is all we can show you of the closing ceremony. Perhaps fitting, considering that these were games very much held behind closed doors. What did go on in the stadium during the closing ceremony was a park scene complete with grass, buskers, and BMX riders. Organizers say it was meant to let the athletes experience Tokyo, as they'd spent most of their time in the Olympic bubble. And the Olympic bubble has already burst for Japan. It's been left with a $15 billion bill and no real prospect of a tourism boom to help offset it. But at least the athletes made off with some money, at least in the form of medals. The US beating China to the top of the medals table on the very last day of the Games, finishing with 113 medals in all, 39 of them gold. Japan, Great Britain, and the Russian Olympic Committee rounding out the top 5. While Cambodian athletes did set new records for themselves in Tokyo, the kingdom's hunt for its first ever Olympic medal will now need to wait until Paris 2024. With the Tokyo 2020 Olympics having closed, Olympic athletes have been returning to heroes' welcomes around the world. Britain's Olympians were greeted by overjoyed relatives and supporters at Heathrow Airport. British track cyclists Jason Kenny and Laura Kenny led the team through the arrivals gate to loud cheers, but the warmest welcome was saved for the boxing team. Gold medalist in the men's flyweight boxing, Galal Yafai, was lifted into the air. Fellow boxing medalists Lauren Price and Fraser Clark were also warmly welcomed home. Britain's chef de mission, Mark England, has hailed the team's achievement as the greatest in their Olympic history. Team GB matched their medals total from their home games in London in 2012. They finished fourth on the medals table at Tokyo with 22 gold, 21 silver, and 22 bronze medals. There were similar scenes in Russia, although not at the airport, but on Red Square. They were driven through the streets of Moscow for an official celebration ceremony. Russian athletes bagged a total of 71 medals, including 21 gold, to finish fifth on the medals table. They've now had 2 Olympics where they've not been able to compete under their flag or with their anthem following the doping scandal back in 2012. The Russian Olympic Committee will be back as plain old Russia at Paris 2024. And Italian sprinter Lamont Marcel Jacobs was also home to a hero's welcome in Rome, returning with his 2 gold medals and the accolade of world's fastest man. He delivered probably the biggest shock of the Games, winning the 100 meters. He's the first ever Italian to win the 100-meter sprint, racing to victory with a new European record time of 9.8 seconds. He was also part of the winning 4x100-meter relay team for a stunning sprint double. That helped Italy to its biggest ever medals haul at a Summer Olympics. The worst-kept secret in football is out. 6-time Ballon d'Or winner Lionel Messi has signed a 2-year contract with Paris Saint-Germain. He arrived in France late yesterday to nothing short of a hero's welcome. Messi waved to cheering fans from the window of Le Bourget Airport on the outskirts of the French capital. Fittingly, his t-shirt read, "This is Paris." The gesture drove fans wild, many of whom had kept a vigil at the airport for 3 days. They were so excited to see Messi, riot police had to keep them back. From the airport, Messi was quickly driven to the American Hospital of Paris for his obligatory medical checkup. A few hours later, Messi mania erupted again when the footballer arrived at the 5-star Le Royal Mansour Hotel, just a short stroll from the Champs-Élysées. Shortly after check-in, he made a balcony appearance with his wife and children. He might just be a guy who plays football for a living, but for Paris, he's the answer to a prayer. PSG has never won the UEFA Champions League, and the fans are hoping that Messi will help get their hands on that elusive trophy. Messi mania continued late into the night in Paris on Wednesday. The newly signed Paris Saint-Germain striker was presented to fans along with his new jersey at the club's stadium. Lionel Messi waved at fans who just couldn't stop chanting his name. He gave a thumbs up and then threw his new jersey into the crowd. That crowd had been waiting all day to welcome him to his new home stadium, Parc des Princes. Messi has joined the already star-packed Paris Saint-Germain from Barcelona, the club where he had begun and was expected to end his career. He's signed a 2-year contract with PSG, complete with an option for a 3rd year. He says his dream is to help PSG win its first ever Champions League title. Fresh from their hero's return to London this week, Team GB has been hit by a doping scandal. The Athletics Integrity Unit has provisionally suspended Britain's Olympic 4x100-meter relay silver medalist Chinju Ujah. He joins 3 other track and field athletes who were suspended during the Olympic Games themselves. Ujah, seen here on the left in this photograph, has been notified by the International World Athletics Federation about the finding. The AIU said in a statement that it had been alerted by the Doping Control Laboratory in Tokyo after the Games that Ujah had returned what's known as an adverse analytical finding from a test carried out during the Olympics. It listed the prohibited substances as Osterine and S23. Both are classified by the World Anti-Doping Organization as selective androgen receptor modulators, similar to anabolic steroids. If the tests are confirmed, Ujah's relay teammates, Zarnell Hughes, Richard Kilty, and Nathaniel Mitchell-Blake's medals will also be at risk. You might have once swiped right, and you've probably swiped left a few times. But a German animal shelter is encouraging people in Munich to start swiping right to adopt a pet. Yep, the Munich Animal Shelter has turned the dating app Tinder in a new approach to find homes for abandoned pets. When the lockdowns hit Europe last year, the demand for pet adoptions went through the roof. Sadly, as people now start returning to work and are spending less time at home, there's been a sharp rise in the number of unwanted pets being taken to shelters. The shelter is starting with 15 pets, of which professional photographs have been taken. The Munich Animal Welfare Association says several people have already swiped right on Tinder to set up their first date. They say the response has been amazing. With the number of pets available for adoption in Cambodia, this might be something animal shelters here could start to think about. Thanks for watching the Weekly Roundup here on the eArts Cambodia channel. More from the EAC News team in the Daily Roundup, Monday night at 8. I'll see you then.